Good day, everybody. Sekeres and Price for Thursday, January the 15th, 2026, a presentation of Bet365. And we're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. I'm Blake Price. That part hasn't changed. He's Jeff Paterson, not Matt Sekeres. That is the difference. Four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. Matt away just for the day. He'll be back tomorrow, but we get Jeff for the day on a game day. I don't know that matters as much as we wanted it to at this point in the proceedings here on just January the 15th here, Jeff. But it is a game day. You'll be back with Rink Wide, of course, later on tonight as well. So longish day, although an early start, which is why we're going early with the last of the 6-game road trip here.
The end of the road.
0-5, Jeff.
Yeah, 5 straight regulation losses, winless in 8. I was doing some digging yesterday. I wrote a story in Canucks Army. If you want to know where this sits historically, it's just kind of a handy chart now to have as the losses continue to mount. They're not there yet. They're not in the franchise record territory this time next week. If nothing changes, though, they could very well be. But what the research for that story, I use research lightly, but boy, I had forgotten about a few things. I guess I just scrubbed them from my memory bank. Like the 8 straight losses to end Willie Desjardins' time here in Vancouver was part of a 2-13-2 death spiral.
Holy crap.
2 wins in 17 games.
How did that compare versus Torts' death spiral? And it was a March death spiral.
Yeah. Not
nearly, yeah.
The franchise record for straight losses, outright losses, no points gained, is 10. And that was back in 1997. So they're only halfway there.
97, too. Wow.
The franchise record for winless streak happened early in the Canucks' history back in 1973 when there were ties. They were 0-10-3 over a 13-game stretch. So
that's arm's length, though.
That's what I mean. If nothing changes between now and next week, they may be rewriting the record book down there at Rogers Arena.
Do you remember, I'm putting you on the spot here, the Alex Burrows streak ender with Alain Vigneault when Alain Vigneault was on the hot seat and he was very close to being fired. Do you remember what that streak was? I want to say 10. I want to say that was a 10-gamer as well. And, that's pre-2011, folks. So Alain Vigneault wouldn't have been in charge of these Stanley Cup Vancouver Canucks if it wasn't for that. That was just as Sundin had arrived, wasn't it? Believe it was.
That all sounds,
it was amongst the worst ones. And, there was all this promise for that team, and they go on a little bit of a skid. But again, that's a playoff team. They ultimately got to the playoffs that year. This is not going to be a playoff team.
No.
What's the over-under for points that makes you think, okay, they may go over? Where's that pivot point for you? If I said over-under 65, what are you doing?
A week ago, 65 was sort of my number, and they haven't won and haven't picked up a point
since.
It's
so lowering.
I think it is. I think now you're looking between 60 and 65.
So ugly. And honestly, if they get 60 points, that is guaranteed. I don't think there's another team that can reach them at 60 points from where they're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, they have set themselves up nicely, I suppose, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
They're 4 points back in Winnipeg now, and Winnipeg's got tiebreakers and that kind of thing. Like, the Canucks would have to get on another little mini run just to climb out of 32nd.
Yes, yeah.
There is a buffer there. And in the length of time it would take them to go on a run, a pretty good chance that those other teams are going to pick up something, right?
Yeah.
And the bar is going to continue to rise on them. So it's a moving target in that regard. No, I think that's why we are where we are, and I know we're going to get into all of this. The realization has finally hit home with management and I think ownership.
And the players, too. I think that's what we're seeing.
For sure. I mean,
yeah,
you're just seeing the frustration on a nightly basis, and they understand there's still 35 games to go.
That's the thing, too, is I think the disheartening reality of how much runway is still left on this season is also adding to this losing so far. If only the losing was just what we needed to talk to you about today. Instead, the wins and losses will have to wait for the most part for another day because, as you said, the realization has now broken through the glass ceiling, if you will, and into management. Jim Rutherford conducting not one, but 2 interviews. They get published on the same day. One to Patrick Johnson in Post Media. We spoke to him right as he pressed publish yesterday morning. And then later in the day from the Globe and Mail, Gary Mason steps back into the sports realm with another sit down. And very different interviews. Get into that in a second. But our poll question to you today now, up at Twitter/X and on YouTube. As a whole, did the 2 Jim Rutherford interviews give you confidence in the Canucks rebuilding plan? Now, there was a bit of a tug-of-war in tone, so I can understand why you might be a little bit flummoxed at the poll question. Voting again, the S&P X account and YouTube channels. What do you think Canucks fans are going to say to the poll question?
I think it'll be a resounding no.
Yeah.
Look, it's all talk at this point, and I get you can't just push a button and blow your team up or rebuild overnight. I understand that. I am encouraged by now the messaging that it does feel like there's alignment. We heard Patrick Alvin from Palm Springs finally utter the word rebuild with no other qualifier around it, just a rebuild. And Rutherford said it a couple of times now. There's nowhere to hide. They've been exposed. They're the 32nd place team in the National Hockey League, and they're dropping like a stone. And so at least I'm encouraged by some of the phrasing. But, I mean, we've seen it before. Like, if they put a couple of wins together, is that going to change the narrative? That these guys do think that this can all be done. Like, I wish Jim Rutherford just wouldn't put a time frame on these rebuilds. Keeps it 2 to 3 years. Maybe, but these things do take time. And so just accumulating young players, that's not a rebuild.
Has to be done with some savvy moves elsewhere as well. Let's get into our top story. Rutherford times 2. President talking to Johnson, Mason. The thrust from Patrick's article was on trades. We spoke to PJ yesterday. That's up on our YouTube channel right now for you to revisit now through this lens. Mason's article, though, far more rebuild focused. And yes, this is where the timeline comes into play, as you mentioned here, Jeff, the 2 to 3 years. And, it's dangerous because people will keep track of this sort of thing. And it's dangerous because, we do log these things digitally these days. It's so easy for us to see what you've said on this before. So the clock, here's the quote from Jim Rutherford. The clock actually started 2 or 3 years ago because we had very good young goalies in the system, and now we have very good young defensemen. These are 2 positions that are hard to build, and we are already ahead of the rebuild before the clock started.
Come on. Like, you can't say that with a straight face when you're acquiring Marcus Pettersson and extending him right away and bringing in Evander Kane and committing to all the other guys that you have committed and trying to tell me that the rebuild started 2 to 3 years ago?
Well, let's go look. A Canuck fan, Ray Hatt, who's a prolific tweeter as well. This was amongst the business that they conducted. This is via acquiring Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov just 2 years ago. They also traded away a promising defenseman, Hunter Brustevich, traded away 2/3, 2/5, a first, a conditional fourth. And, of course, there was the first that they flipped around for Pettersson just last year as well. Again, an astute fan base, Jeff. And again, in the digital era, it's just so easy to keep track of this stuff and show the folly of the statement.
Well, this is my whole thing, is that you can scream rebuild from the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it a rebuild. Like, you have to go through the methodical process. You need some luck with the lottery balls, you need some luck in the draft. It's as simple as that. You could get the first overall pick, and it doesn't guarantee that first, like, if it was just getting the first overall pick, the New York Rangers had the first and second pick in consecutive years with Lafreniere and Kakko. How's that working for them right now?
Yeah.
You know, the Los Angeles Kings have Quentin Byfield, the second overall pick. They won the lottery.
They still want another center.
Do they look like a Stanley Cup contender to you?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the long list. The New Jersey Devils have 2 firsts and a second in Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, and they won the lottery and got Simone Nemec. And look at them. I mean, they're a tire fire. So it's not just about getting those draft picks and in those high slots. It's then making sure you hit on them. And the Devils have hit on, I mean, Jack Hughes and Hischier are both terrific players. But then you have to go around and build around those guys. And so, again, I think the first step is acknowledging that you're not getting out of 32nd place and that, yes, from this point forward, now everything has to be done, all I's dotted, all T's crossed, no stone left unturned, tear it down, make the moves that we've talked about, trading the tradable guys, but maybe even a few of the untradable guys, finding a way to make all of that happen. But this is a savvy fan base, a savvy market. And Jim Rutherford can't be making flippant statements like that they've been doing the rebuild for 3 years.
Again, the tension, the tug of war here between good things and bad things that he was saying. He brought up the 2 to 3 years, warned that, you know, if you don't do this right, it's going to take a lot longer. So, you know, that part is true, but he seems to lean on the 2 to 3 years part as. And lean on this year in particular, but the acquisition of draft picks and preservation of draft picks for this year, you just can't help but read between the lines, Jeff, of still a level of impatience that, you know, they still believe, like, again, it's not so much exactly in a particular quote, but it's just some of the tones here. The emphasis on draft picks just this year, and he narrows down on just this year, it makes you believe that they really think that they just need to be bad this year and they're going to be okay.
Right, and then so maybe they get Gavin McKenna. Maybe they get Ivor Steinberg. Who knows?
Yeah.
But one player in isolation isn't the rebuild. And this team is lacking elite-level game-breaking talent. I mean, that's abundantly clear every night they step on the ice. And they've got so many veterans that have underperformed and underwhelmed, and that's why they are where they are. So, you know, he in other interviews, he talks about keeping good veterans to surround these young players. Well, who are the good veterans on this team? You know, in terms of the performance on the ice, they might be nice guys off the ice. They might be decent in the locker room, but they've just got so many. And it starts with Brock Besser, obviously, but he's not alone. They've just got so many veterans that have not lived up to their end of the bargain this season, and they're all under contract with trade protection. And so, again, adding 1 or even 2 first-round picks this year to this mix, steps in the right direction, but definitely not the end of the rebuild.
One of the quotes that you know allows you to do this, he doesn't mind it being ugly this season. You shouldn't mind it being ugly next season either, really, if you want to do this properly. Again, it just the emphasis on this season, and maybe this is why here, Jeff. Is he going to be around to see all of it? He probably doesn't enjoy what's happening. Asked if he's committed to next season. As we speak, yes, I am. But beyond that, he said he didn't know. Eventually, I have to do what's best for my family, but also what's best for the Canucks. I'm committed to this rebuild. I'm committed to this job today, and as long as I'm here. Well, yes, if you're sitting at the desk, I would hope that you're committed to the job you're doing, but that's not a vote of confidence in himself, is it?
Right, and he's going to be 77 here in short order, and so for him to put a 2 to 3 year timeline and then utter that statement. So then this becomes a question for ownership. You know, is Jim Rutherford the guy? Do you want Jim Rutherford being in charge of overseeing this rebuild if he's only going to be around another year and a half?
And Jeff, is this why he pumped in Patrick's piece, he pumped Alvin a lot? Is that why?
Possibly. So does ownership believe in Patrick Allvin. If Jim Rutherford was to step away, does Patrick Allvin get all the titles and all the autonomy to make the decisions? If ownership's hedging on that, then what? Then this is my fear that we're going to be back in this loop of going out, trying to bring in another president of hockey operations and one who's going to tell ownership exactly what he wants to hear about how quickly, he can pull a rabbit out of a hat and get this thing back on track. And so whether it's Jim Rutherford, whether they have to go outside the organization, whether Patrick Allvin's in charge, it comes right back to this idea of discipline. You're saying all the right things today. But as the losses mount, and as you said, next year looks like it's going to be a difficult year as well, do they have the organizational discipline to see this through? Or at some point, are they going to say, no, this is so bad, we got to start taking the shortcuts again?
And I'll give Rutherford credit for this, again, more so in the Patrick article than the Gary Mason article, but he did utter the words. He did talk about it being ugly this season. Yep. He did talk about it needing multiple years. Walked it back a little bit in the Gary. I don't know that I felt like even Allvin speaking with the website earlier this week or late last week, I don't know that he was as strong. I don't know if I believed him as much. My point is, if Rutherford steps away and Patrick Allvin is still here, if I'm a Canuck fan, I'm a little bit more leery on whether an Allvin has maybe the relationship with the owner that Jim Rutherford does, the respect of the owner that Rutherford does, and B, if he's just got the temerity to follow through on the rebuild plan. I would be worried about that. Yeah,
and so I go back to this idea that, they've, we don't know it, but they've trust us. They've been in this rebuild for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And gone through all those steps of trying to win for Quinn. And remember that they were 9-2 through 20 games this year. They had 20 points through 20 games. And we're saying then that, if only the injuries would have had more points, would have been in a better position.
Yeah.
And then in November, Jim Rutherford is saying, we're not looking to rebuild at this point, which may have been a last-ditch effort to convince Quinn, but I think by then they knew that they weren't going to re-sign Quinn Hughes. And so, weeks after that interview, they have to pull the trigger on one of the biggest trades in franchise history. And even then, they won those 4 games in a row, and there were some suggestions that...
they're better now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, again, it's one thing to say it, need to see the action. I know it can't happen overnight, but they are going to be judged far more on what they do than what they say. So let's see where it goes. And, the memo went out in late November. Haven't been able to consummate any deals other than the Quinn Hughes trade. And if they are truly rebuilding, a true rebuild, it's going to require the pain to strip this thing away. And yet all of these same players that have been on the roster all season are still here, aside from the former captain.
He did give Adam Foote a bit of a
pass.
Says he's doing the best job possible given all the injuries, bringing up the injuries again, I guess. Mm-hmm. Does that mean anything to you at this point in the proceedings?
I'm bracing for the end of the season to hear more about injuries, because that just seems to be a rite of passage in Vancouver, or a rite of spring, that they're out of the playoffs, and it's always because of the injuries. And look, they've had injuries, but so have so many teams around the National Hockey League. And in a condensed schedule, that's life. And it's dealt the Canucks a tough blow at times, but again, the players that are out of the lineup, are they better with Filip Chytil and Marco Rossi? Yeah.
But likely incrementally, yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that, Teddy Bluger probably could have helped the penalty kill, but Teddy Bluger isn't going to move the needle an awful lot in the big picture.
Does the vote of confidence tell you that Adam Foote's back next year, or is it way too early for that?
Well, I know that there are some that get rid of him now and bring somebody else in. I'm not in that camp. I think the damage has been done. But there's a part of me that thinks if you really are prepared for the pain that comes with a rebuild, and you want high draft picks this year and again in the 2027 draft, then what's the rush to move off this head coach?
Some people see him as the ideal tank commander.
Yeah.
Unwittingly, perhaps. You mentioned Quinn Hughes. He mentioned Quinn Hughes as well. Was asked about the effect of the JT Miller trade on Quinn Hughes and said that had nothing to do with Quinn's departure, that Quinn was understanding of the predicament contractually and all that with Paterson v. Miller and who needed to go, and as much as they were buddies. The company line is that that was not a part of Quinn's departure. But Quinn's departure may have had an effect on the coldest Vancouver Canucks scorer, Brock Besser. And if it affected Besser, the departure. I'm sure it has. Yeah, they were very, very good friends, and I'm sure that was part of it. You know, he's just a terrific person, Brock, and he can be sensitive sometimes to situations like this, so I'm sure it has. Yeah, no doubt it's affected him. Your reaction to that, it could be viewed as sort of a, not a shot, but a soft analysis of Brock Besser, and B, is it accurate? Do you think? Do you think Brock Besser is being affected by the Quinn Hughes departure emotionally more than just on the ice?
Yeah, I think Brock's been more affected by the JT Miller trade. That when Brock played his best hockey and had his 40-goal season, JT was the pit bull that went and got the puck for him and found him, and Brock was firing from all over the place. Quinn, to a lesser degree, has the puck and would try to set him up. But, on the emotional side, sure. I mean, these guys were teammates, friends, but this is the nature of the business. And guys come and go all the time. And Quinn Hughes was traded on December the 12th. It's January the 15th, and Brock hasn't scored in that time. I have trouble believing that Brock's slump can be chalked up to the emotions that came with saying goodbye to his buddy. Part of it is he's had crappy line mates or crappy centers to play with, but he's also a veteran who, you can't just sit there and say, oh, nobody's getting me the puck. Like, go and get the puck. I know that's not sort of his style, but what he's been doing here of late hasn't been working for him. So I don't know. I found that answer just to be a bit of a soft pedal from management, and maybe they don't want to carve Brock Besser publicly, but something's got to give. I mean, this can't become, it's 21 games. It can't become 30. It can't become 40, or can it? At some point, it feels like there has to be a little bit of heat applied, and, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but I don't know. When I read that quote, I just kind of thought, really, how long are we going to lean on that Brock's security blanket doesn't play here anymore?
Well, I got bad news for Brock too. Like, there are others that will be leaving.
That's true.
And your friends most likely. Like, what are the chances that one of Garland, Demko, pick your veteran? I'll believe Paterson and Hronek when I see it, but DeBrusk, Garland, Demko, I think in the next 6 months, all bets are off. More on that coming up with David Pagnotta here. But, it's going to be very, very interesting. All that brought to you by our top story, by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Wines, and Yellow Dog Spirits. And yesterday we told you about the Starborn Kolsch, the Make My Pet a Yellow Dog Brewing Star contest. The winners, Aardvark, Mr. Eyeball, Ben, and Lizzie.
Yeah, that's Mr. Eyeball.
Why do they call him Mr. Eyeball? That's why they call him Mr. Eyeball.
I heard you guys talking about him yesterday. Now I have seen for myself that's Mr. Eyeball.
Yeah, really, not a more perfect name given. Aardvark, pretty cute of his own right. I had an Aardvark, just passed away, so rest in peace, Daisy. But Mr. Eyeball. Basketball Phil had asked for pictures. There you go. There's Mr. Eyeball for you. As for the other things going on, don't forget about the Amigos Black Lager from Neighborhood Brewing. The darker side of good times, the dark lager brings a little more attitude, malt depth, just the right amount of smoothness to keep things easy drinking. Same spirit, new vibe. Check out the Amigos Black Lager from Neighborhood Brewing. Crave the stats now. Brought to you by Uber Eats as we get you set for the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks have had a devil of a time scoring on this road trip. Just 8 goals on the trip. So if you're looking for just a crack of light here, Jeff, they are not getting the tougher of the two goaltenders.
No, Rick Bowness comes in. He had Jet Greaves in goal the other night, but new coach wants to see both of his guys. So Elvis will be in the building and in the crease for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Elvis Merzlikins, who you may remember the Canucks defeated back here in Vancouver in November. Brock Besser scored a goal. The winning goal came down the right side and snapped a shot that Merzlikins should have stopped all day, every day, but he didn't because he doesn't stop a lot of pucks. He has, as we crave the stats, Elvis Merzlikins 6-7-1 on the season, a 4.03 goals against average, and an .877 save percentage. Blake, he has started just one of the team's last 11 games because they have turned to Jet Greaves, who's emerged. I was surprised when I saw this. Jet Greaves has logged more minutes in the NHL than any goalie since December the 8th. He's been the busiest goaltender in the National Hockey League. So they have leaned on him, and they're below the playoff bar, so it's not like he has delivered them to the promised land. Whatever the case, Rick Bowness wants to see Elvis up close and personal. Jet Greaves has incredible numbers, and so this is an opportunity. But so was the other name against an Ottawa goaltender in Marilainen, who hadn't been stopping pucks and hadn't been winning hockey games, and all of a sudden he faces the Canucks and the Rangers in back-to-back nights and comes out with 2 wins. So things can change in a hurry, but yeah.
Marilainen should keep his feet on the ground after those 2 victories.
For sure. Yeah, look, the Tank, it could be in some trouble tonight because not only is Elvis Merzlikins in goal, Eric Goodbranson, 34-year-old Eric Goodbranson, has been activated from IR and will play for the first time since late October. He's played 4 games all season, and so that combination of goody on defense and not so goody in goal, I don't know. We'll see what the Tank can do at the end of the road trip here.
There's not been a lot of nights this season where Kevin Lankinen has had the better statistics than the goalie at the other end, but that is the case. Lankinen seen his save percentage rise a little bit after the other night in Ottawa, which he looked very good, except for the 30 seconds of 2 goals. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. It's a step in the right direction for Kevin Lankinen, and maybe there's more there, and maybe the Canucks can, score a goal or 2. You score regardless if you download the Uber Eats app, because Uber Eats is assisting with your game day experience all season long. Game day deals on the app. Buy one, get one 6 McNugget pack. I mean,
the 8-game homestand coming up. The McNuggets are going to be
flying. Why wouldn't you want more McNuggets? If you're ordering McNuggets already, why not more of the McNugget? Go check it out. For all your needs. Can be food, could be the paper plates and napkins as well. Crave the Stats, brought to you by our fine friends at Uber Eats. Lineup notes for the Canucks. There's a bit of a shuffle here. First of all, we'll get to those that are playing. Nils Höglander out. Baines is in. Mm-hmm. Wielander back in as well. They're doing the kid pairing again, Wielander and Mancini. And perhaps the most notable change outside of who's in, who's out, but those are down the depth charts. Brock Besser, does he get a center? And I'll say he does. Max Aston has had a decent season for where he is at in his career, and he's not David Kampf.
He's not, but it is funny. Well, Max has scored a bunch of goals, and his speed is evident.
Yeah, he's not
As a National Hockey League centerman, he's got 2 assists this season, and his last one came in late November.
Yeah.
It's the middle of January. So, it's a different look. I mean, he's played a little bit with Besser at times this year, but to get Besser away from David Kampf, and then Drew O'Connor on the other side, new line mates, maybe a change at some point, something will give for Brock Besser, but interesting that Tom Wielander gets back in, and I think that's the right call. Sit him out for a game, get him back in, but playing him on the left side again. He played on the left with Philip Hronek the other night. Now he's on the left side with Victor Mancini. So, they sent DPD a left shot down, and they've got this glut of right shot guys. Somebody's got to slide over and play. They're going with Tom Wielander. So I don't know if that says that they believe in him enough that he, has the adaptability to do it. It's not putting him in the best position to succeed. But I'm also curious because we've seen that Wielander had a chance to run the power play. Boom came out of the lineup. So if and when the Canucks get power plays tonight, who's going to be manning the point on the first unit.
And I don't know if this is a yay or a boo for Liam Ogren, who's looked pretty good despite not getting as many points here in the last few games. But he gets to play with Garland.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets some quality line mates. You know, the spike in Garland, the Valley and Kampf. I'll be interested to see how that comes out in the wash.
Yeah, I thought Connor Garland looked good getting back into the lineup in Montreal, had some jump, made some things happen, and then back-to-back right away.
Yeah.
Didn't have much going. Not that anybody really did, but I didn't notice Garland the way you usually do in Ottawa. So day off yesterday, I would expect that Connor Garland will have that jump. And yeah, I thought Liam Ogren was among the better of the Canucks in Ottawa, won most of his puck battles, was skating well, using his size. I mean, that's what he has to do. And you just want to, as there isn't a whole lot to watch in the way of results now with the Vancouver Canucks, it is some of the individuals and the development of some of the young guys. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a positive step. So can he string a couple of these games together? And can he start to use some of those skills of puck battles and coming off the wall with the puck and make something happen out of them? Like, it's one thing to win the battle, then what's next? And so, he's been good since coming over from Minnesota. Ogren's been good, and kind of curious to see what he looks like bookending Connor Garland on the other side tonight.
I know the various tank commanders don't want to hear this, but I wouldn't mind a decent performance tonight, Jeff. They're not going to lose 30 games in a row. Sprinkling a win every 9 games seems reasonable. I wouldn't mind just a bright light, like a 2-goal game for Ogren. Something like that. Something to hold on to just a little bit.
I hear you. Keep in mind that Columbus has the new coach, and they're going to probably continue to get a new coach bounce for a little while here. They beat Calgary the other night 5-3, had 43 shots on goal. So, I think that tells you the guys were playing for the new coach. Zach Werenski, we did crave the stats. He's got 17 goals, which, not a huge surprise because he had 23 last year. Defenseman. That's 40 goals in a year and a half.
Pretty good.
Scored the other night, had 3 points, leads the Blue Jackets in scoring. Yeah, and 15 of his 17 have come at even strength, so he's not a power play merchant. It's not like he's just pumping pucks with the man advantage. And I am curious to see Kent Johnson, who really has struggled this year. And I haven't watched enough Columbus Blue Jackets hockey, but reading about the coaching change, people were saying that was one of the issues, the development of some of the young players, whether it's Cole Sillinger, Fantilli's having a decent season, but Kent Johnson, Port Moody's Kent Johnson, he's 23. He had 24 goals and 57 points last year.
Yeah.
In 68 games, 15 points on the power play. He's got 4 goals, 12 points, and doesn't have a single point on the power play this year.
It's inexplicable for a guy of that skill level.
But he played a bunch. He played way more under Rick Bowness the other night than he had been playing under Dean Evison.
Yeah.
And so I think that was Rick Bowness coming in with the big hug, trying to, that's what Rick Bowness does, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Good guy, and try and build these guys up kind of the way Bruce Boudreau did when he took over here. Some of these players are at a low, and that's going to be Rick Bowness's job here, is to pump them up and get them going. And I think Kent Johnson is probably close to the top of the list there. But Columbus has offensive weapons, whether it's Marchenko or Voronkov. They've got some guys that are going to be a handful. When you're 32nd in the league, every team is a handful. Which is
going to test Bouillon, Willander, Mancini.
Sure.
The young guys are going to have to be stout here tonight. The other news around the morning skate was the appearance of Hedl and Bluger. Okay, they've been out there, but we didn't see any red jerseys out there.
No. Our buddy Dave Tomlinson posted a wide shot of all the Canucks on the ice. There's not a red non-contact jersey to be seen. And then the Canucks themselves posted a picture of a smiling Philip Hedl wearing a blue practice jersey, which may seem insignificant, but I don't think it is. Like, he is doing everything he can here to ramp back up to a comeback to play in the National Hockey League this season.
Well, these are big games.
And no, but the fact that he has moved on from the red non-contact jersey would indicate that that's a step.
No, I'm saying he's trying to get back to play in this kind of a game.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh my God.
The race is on. The other curious one was Kiefer Sherwood, because the other day in Montreal after the morning skate, Adam Foote said, week, could be 3.
Could be 3.
Doesn't look promising. And then Sherwood's on the ice this morning skating. So who knows? Your guess is as good as mine as where he is in all of this. And you mentioned that Nils Höglander comes out. I don't have a problem with that.
No.
But just feels like it's time, doesn't it? It feels like I know you'd be trading it like the low of lows. Guy doesn't have a point this season, but
Just don't retain, though. Like
it just doesn't feel like there's a future here for Nils Höglander.
I was about to check sort of the possibility with the next game for Sherwood. I forgot that it's just every other night. The calendar is a checkerboard for the Vancouver Canucks until the Olympics. They play every other night from here on in. So if they don't play one night, you'll know they play the next.
So the 8-game homestand, you're not being asked to come down to Rogers Arena twice in a row.
No. Just every other night
yes.
for like eternity, it's going to feel like. But yeah, Hedl, Bluger, Sherwood, all on the ice. None of them will play tonight. Other Canucks getting dragged a little bit here. It appears the penultimate team to get championship rings from a season ago has finally, that shoe has dropped. The Medicine Hat Tigers are getting their 2025 championship rings.
Damn, look at those for Western Hockey League.
For a dub championship? That's
didn't even win the Memorial Cup.
No, those are kind of fun. Adding the color is really nice. Ben Lipka covering the Abbey Canucks. Congrats to the Medicine Hat Tigers for receiving championship rings. Still no word on what's happening with the Abbotsford Canucks rings.
Are they going to have to order new Abbotsford Canuck rings? They're heating up. They've won 3 in a row, Blake. Are they? Okay.
Stop it.
All right, fair enough.
Stop it.
But they have won 3 in a row.
They have won 3 in a row, which is just good for the development of the players that are down there.
Last night, though.
Still ill, maybe. I mean, Alphonso Davies has been up for Bayern. I mean, sometimes you'd need a week, so that's what it'll be for Lekkermacki, it looks like. As for the rings, I mean, Abbey Canucks, this is your cue to send out another email of, we haven't forgotten about this file. I know it's been 5 weeks of silence, but
we got this.
We do have this. They are coming. The date will be, and you don't even have to give a specific date at this point, Jeff.
Well, they're running out of dates.
Right.
They're past the midway mark of their season now.
But they could just say it's going to be in late February. We're expecting them to arrive, and then we'll do that. It'll be late one of the dates in late, like provide some sort of clarity, because whether you intend this or not, you're coming off as super cheap and disorganized.
But, Blake, and we know how they operate, they would see that Medicine Hat Tigers tweet and see...
We're not alone!
Exactly. See,
yes.
Other teams are taking this long. What's the big deal?
Again, do the research. That's the first time I've seen a team award something after Christmas. It is pretty much universal. It's done in October and November. The fact that Medicine Hat is taking this long is worthy of some level of criticism. Abby, get on it.
Shame on you, Willie D.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, before we get to other stuff, we do want to take a second to pivot to the Vancouver Whitecaps, who have been mired in almost a Canuck-level bit of intrigue here.
Yeah, a little soap opera going on.
While Axel Schuster, on the last day of medicals today, provided an update on Tristan Blackmon, who reported for duty today on the last day of medicals. It may have been, I wasn't there because literally they just finished. It may have been a semantics thing or a misunderstanding in terms of the report. Tom Boger's a very good MLS reporter. But the Whitecaps always had it. Wednesday and Thursdays were report days and medical days. He wasn't there yesterday, but maybe he was always supposed to be here on Thursday, today. He reported, did his medical, and they are under every expectation that he will be on the plane to Marbella, Spain tomorrow when they leave. He first refused any further comment, did Axel Schuster, setting in the negotiations are underway. But then he did go on and said he fully expects Tristan Blackmon to be a Whitecaps player at first kick of the season. He additionally went as far as to say there is no heat whatsoever in talks between the Whitecaps and Inter Miami, and that Miami has in turn reassured the Whitecaps they are not behind any of the current stories and that they did not leak anything to reporters. There's been some suspicion, Jeff, that Inter Miami leaked this to reporters to put it into the brain of Tristan Blackmon so that he would request a transfer to Inter Miami.
Yeah, I wondered where sort of the genesis of all of this had been, because I followed along from an arm's length, but...
Well, the reporter that I say is to blame, a respected reporter in the area of Miami and, beat reporter. She's been on that beat for a while. Weird that she got it this wrong, if that's the case. But now this is the second time that Axel's doubled down and said, it's not happening. We're trying to add to this team, not take away from it. And he bolstered himself with that regard. They signed somebody today. New signing for the Whitecaps amidst all these rumors about Andres Kubas' future perhaps changing at some point this year. Maybe not now, but maybe in the summer, a transfer for Andres Kubas. Well, Oliver Larraz comes over from Colorado. Free agent signing. He can play as a number 6. He's a good number 6. A workhorse for Colorado. Played in 38 matches last year for the Rapids. And he is just a good, solid, granite block midfield defender. It's a savvy signing. He's young, too. He's only 24. He's an unexciting player. But, I mean, part of the Whitecaps thing, he got goalkeeper of the year, the Yohei Takaoka, but he's helped a lot by the fact he just doesn't see a lot of action. He does not see a lot of shots on goal. So you look a lot better. Your clean sheets go through the roof when you don't have to stop many shots. And so guys like this.
Somebody tell the Canucks.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It sounds like a sound strategy, Blake.
Yeah, I wonder if it could work. Fewer shots on goal. And then Axel went on to say they're not done. 3 to 4 more players are going to be added. It sounds like this window, which ends in February. So Whitecaps are not done, and they're refuting all the soap operas, and that's good. After the season that they had, Jeff, and I think what makes them a little bit soap opera proof to some degree is Mueller. Like, I don't think players want to leave, and I don't think the Whitecaps want to let their fans down during the Mueller era for as long as this lasts.
So let me ask you this one about Thomas Mueller, because he checked off every single box conceivable on the pitch, off the pitch, around town, all that kind of stuff. And we know, like, that's who he is. Like, it wasn't him getting out of character, but he arrived midseason and hit the ground running. Like, can he be that same guy for an entire MLS season? And at any point, do we see any sort of, I don't even want to use the word diva, but like, do we expect that he will, if he's healthy and available, play every game? Like, is there a chance that over the long haul of a full season that he picks and chooses games to play?
Well, now that they're more healthy, like if we're to assume that Ryan Gauld is available to start again, and that's a question mark for me. They do have the option to sit him. They've got the option to have those two on the pitch at the same time for big games, of course, but they do have the opportunity to reduce Mueller's schedule a little bit and put Ryan Gauld in that position, of course, and then you're just back to the team that you were for those games. It's going to be interesting. And as far as his off-pitch persona, what does he have for Act 2? Like, he doesn't need to do what he just did because that was just done. I also just wonder if he becomes another attractant for other signings, too. Remember, the midseason window is a big one. It's a World Cup year, so it's a little bit finicky there. But, I think it's going to be very intriguing as to wins and losses and what this team just feels like off the pitch going forward as well. So they're off to Spain tomorrow. We'll have some intermittent coverage as they play some exhibition games over there, but signings to come as well. As for us, the rest of today, let's get into the menu. Brought to you by Greta. We had a great time with our last watch party versus Toronto last weekend. Keep your ear to the ground. You might be cheering on some Canadian hockey there sometime soon. Midday game times for Canada from Italy on a lot of those games. Remember that? So nooners at Greta. Could that be a thing? That sounds pretty fun. 50 West Cordova, gretabar.com. Let the games begin. The fabulous arcade, of course, there as well. David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period on our shortened early shows here on the Eastern Road Swing for the Canucks. David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period and DFO Insider is going to join us for the latest on the rumor mill. So what he says and what his reflection has been after these Jim Rutherford comments and how they were taken league-wide. And really are the likes, everyone's available, Jeff. Everyone. I mean, you can say that, but does that really mean that Hronek and Paterson can be traded? Will be traded? Want to be traded? Will be traded? Like, those are tough questions right now for two good players like that.
Yeah, and you can put the for sale sign up out in front of your house. It
That's
doesn't
right.
mean that it's going to sell, right?
I see it all the time. That car, they're asking for $5 million for that house? Well, they can ask all you want.
If they can get $5 million.
Yeah, by all means. Good luck with that. So, yeah, is that the case for our Hronek and Paterson, the $5 million house down the street?
Canucks are just having an open house, essentially.
Yes.
Walk on through. Take a look around.
Please, make a bid.
Shoes at the front door.
All that coming up. Time for our Bet365 bets of the day. Where are you going today here? I got a victory. Victoria Mboko got me a victory.
Yeah.
Where are you going for today?
Well, the resident Bears fan is out of office today, but he will be back tomorrow. But looking ahead at the weekend here, the Bears home underdogs against the LA Rams. You can get them at plus 165 on the money line. So a little bit of value there if you think the Chicago Bears can rise up and advance to the NFC Championship game.
Adam Foote baited the hook with a centerman change for Brock Besser. I'll bite on it. Again, you've outlined Max Sasson is not Adam Oates. But just the change, maybe mentally that does something for Brock Besser. And we've chronicled too, Jeff. He's had ample opportunity. The heel jobs right at the net,
Got a goalie that hasn't played much and hasn't made many saves.
Yeah.
This might be the perfect storm. It's coming together.
I think the number should be a little bit bigger. Like Jake DeBrusk is plus 225 to score. That's a big number. Brock Besser's plus 180, but again, I'll reluctantly bite on the hook here, given by Adam Foote. This segment is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use the code NATION. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Let's get the lowdown on the rumor mill. David Pagnotta next. Coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealers Studios, and this segment is indeed brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. No compromise approach to electric vehicles here, offering the best of both worlds. No range anxiety. You've got a full tank of gas there for when you need it. For doing the errands at home, 72 kilometers of electric range. You would be amazed at how far 72 kilometers is. You got to be very busy. Neither one of us is 72 kilometers per day busy, I don't think.
Generally not.
Unless you're going to cover the Abbotsford Canucks.
No, not these days.
In which case, again, you got the full tank of gas. Get behind the wheel of one of these. You'll fall in love. Take one for a test drive. It'll speak for itself. You can lease a 2026 SE from 109 weekly at 3.99% APR for 64 months with 3,300 down. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. From the fourth period, DFO Insider David Pagnotta back with us once again here on Sekeres and Price featuring Jeff Paterson. Welcome, David. How are you?
I'm good, boys. I'm in Vegas here for Mitch Marner Fest for some reason.
Did he used to play for the Leafs, David?
Allegedly.
Yes.
There's some people who believe he did. Some people who are very upset that he's just Mitch in general.
Yeah.
They're playing here. First game back against Toronto, and then they go to Toronto next Friday to face off in Toronto against the Leafs. So it's a big Toronto-esque hoopla BS situation that I found myself in. But here we are.
Doesn't help that the Leafs have one loss in 10 and are right below the playoff bar now, so there's extra drama there. So enjoy yourself. There's good storylines there. There's tons of storylines here, David, because Jim Rutherford did the car wash thing. We didn't know that was a mid-season State of the Union day for Jim Rutherford, but apparently it was.
Right.
2 expansive interviews, one with the local paper, one that appears in the Globe, of course, Patrick Johnson and Gary Mason, the 2 columnists on each side. And both of them dealt with different things. And it reached you. I think we were talking before we pressed record here that there was a wave of sentiment that started one way and ended up a different way here, and it reached outside this market clearly.
Yes, it did. I thought the first interview went well, and then the second one was interesting. I mean, again, the advice is to stop talking, but in the grand scheme of it all, there were nuggets that were dished out in both, which was good to obviously to see and to decipher from and to kind of pick away from. This is going to be an interesting ride here for the next little bit for the Vancouver Canucks and for all of us that are tied to the team, with the type of changes that are going to happen and that the direction that this team is officially going in. Clearly, with Jim and Patrick Allvin acknowledging the rebuild, not a hybrid one, not a retool. We're going through this, so good on them for now understanding what direction they're going in, and how to properly define what the pathway is for this group. But you try to read the tea leaves of those interviews, and you take that into account with everything else that's going on and all the chatter around the league and talking to everybody around there to see what may happen next. And, I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. I think we all thought Sherwood was going to be next. It hasn't happened yet. And now he's injured. So what is the next domino to fall? And typically when you go on a bit of a media blitz like this, at least for the Canucks, there's action that follows. So I'm curious to see what type of action that actually is.
Right. So on that point, I mean, Jim put out the memo to all other teams back in late November that he was open for business, and the only business they've done is Quinn Hughes. So he continues to talk, and I assume some of that in his mind is to try to drum up business. The lines are in the water, obviously, but are they getting nibbles? Are they getting more than nibbles? Like, where does this stand? How much interest is there truly in what the Canucks are trying to sell?
Yeah, and so yes, the lines are in without question. I think there's a net there. They just haven't lifted it yet. This is a team that's, and this kind of goes hand in hand with how the rest of the league is. There are a lot of conversations going on league wide. We just haven't seen the action yet, and the timing of the Quinn Hughes trade was, I think the initial response from the rest of the league was, all right, perfect, huge bombshell, huge domino to fall. Let's see what kind of comes out of this. And then we hit the holiday freeze, and then that kind of like it modified things a little bit from that perspective. It put a bit of a halt on some of the discussions. There's a lot of talk. The action is there. It's just a matter of now following through on a lot of this. Kiefer Sherwood conversations, we talked about this a couple weeks ago too, was right after that holiday freeze, things picked up. And the idea that I got was, and the notion that I got was, this was going to be something that was going to happen sooner than later, hopefully in the first half or mid-January. And A, it hasn't happened, and B, he's now hurt. So that's going to certainly affect things to a certain extent. At the same time, as the conversations have continued, I was told that if there was an opportunity to move him for a second and a third round pick, they could have pulled the trigger on that already. But they have been steadfast on their asking price, which is still believed to be a first round pick plus. So they're going to navigate that. I don't think the injury has really affected that discussion or that price, at least not yet. You've got to wonder how much longer they're going to hold out. Are they going to go to the deadline? There are obviously risks tied to that. I think they wanted some finality, and I know that he would like some as well, because the idea and the perception is he will be moved at some point. It's just a matter of when. And then as that's been going on, the conversations, boys, they've picked up on other players, whether it's DeBrusk or Connor Garland's name has really picked up in the last little bit. They're obviously willing to listen on almost everybody. Petey stuff, which we'll dive into. That's been given a bit of an uptick. So, again, typically when teams give out these types of interviews and divulge certain bits of information, there's usually action that follows, because as much as it is keeping the fan base apprised, it's also a bit of a message to some of the other teams that they're talking to that, all right, it's time to get to business here.
You can only send out so many memos, right? On the team on the team's WhatsApp group chat, and it's amazing that those smoke signals are still needed. Should people believe that Philip Hronek and Elias Pettersson could really be traded? And I picked those two players because they are arguably, they are the best defenseman and the best forward on this team. Both of whom have an age that is palatable for them to endure the rebuild and still be there with the team on the other side. But they're useful players. Right shot defensemen do not grow on trees.
Yep.
Top six centermen do not grow on trees. But do you get, like Quinn Hughes? I think you can very much make the argument, got back fair return for what he is. You can quibble, but I think it is defensible. I don't know that Canuck fans will be as excited with what they get back from either of a Hronek or a Pettersson trade, but you tell me.
I have not, if they're moving Philip Hronek, it's an overpay. That's my belief of the situation. I don't think he's legitimately out there, but given their situation, sure, you want to overpay. Like, this is similar to St. Louis and Robert Thomas. We'll listen, but you've got to make us, you got to prove to us that you actually want this guy, and you're overpaying for this player. I think it's the same situation here with Philip Hronek and the Vancouver Canucks. Elias Pettersson, different. I don't think he's been out of the trade waters, I guess, or the discussion points at all this entire season. I think the Canucks have been willing and have continued to be willing to listen. Now, the timing of the season, things will escalate at this time of year, sure, and they'll probably continue to until the trade deadline. But Vancouver's openness to having that discussion has always been there, going back to, again, last season. So I think Hronek, different story. You make us an offer we can't refuse kind of situation. Whereas with Petey, it's a little bit different. And there is a willingness to listen on that. You're right. The return will not be as robust as the Quinn Hughes deal. Different circumstance. But this is a player that a lot of teams believe, and this is not a Canucks narrative. I know this was brought out by whoever, maybe it was Dregs, earlier on this week, that, they're afraid that if the team is afraid that if he goes somewhere else, he'll flourish, he'll regain. This isn't a Canucks message. This is what some teams believe, that a change of scenery will revive his career and get it back to point a game plus plateau. And the Canucks recognize that. So if that's what you believe, what are you willing to pay for that? So I don't know if this is necessarily something that's going to happen between now and the trade deadline. This might be something that's more geared towards the offseason. And I think you guys have touched on it. I know, Jim, Irf's mentioned this as well. This might be something more geared towards the offseason. But that's not to say the Canucks aren't going to listen now or continue to listen. And if the right deal is presented, I don't see a scenario where they won't seriously consider it. And then once they do, then it's up to the player himself. I don't think this is also a scenario where they're going to Elias Pettersson and his agent saying, give us your top 5 teams or 10 teams or whatever it is. I think this is a case-by-case situation where if they feel they're comfortable enough with a package, then they'll go back to his camp and then he'll have to make a decision. We're not there yet, but I think that's likely how this plays out if he is moved at any point.
I'm with you that I just don't see teams clamoring to get their hooks into Elias Pettersson for a playoff push here. And every day that goes by is another day, another dollar that comes off the books with a pretty onerous contract. I know you and Irf talked about it on your show, and this is no reporting. I want to be clear on that one. But on a lot of levels, don't the Los Angeles Kings make some sense for Elias Pettersson at some point with Anze Kopitar walking away at the end of the season?
Yeah, a lot of sense. I mean, yeah, look, Kopi's done this year. We know this is the end of it. They moved Phil Deneau already. They're a little bit thin up the middle moving forward. They've got Quentin Byfield and Alex Turcotte. That's it, effectively, going into next season. I think LA, yes, there would be interest. I think he fits exactly what they're looking for. And I think they're a team that's willing to pay the $11.6 million a year for this player. Do they believe he's a point a game type? I don't know yet. I don't think they've gotten to that point. But yes, I think optically looking at things, checking out their roster, reading all the tea leaves, and then trying to push this all together. I think the LA Kings do make a lot of sense, but there's an acquisition cost. What are they willing to give up? Like, they're not going to trade Quentin Byfield, and I don't get the sense they have any desire to move Brandt Clarke. So from Vancouver's perspective, well, what the hell are you giving us? So there's that element as part of it as well. What's the cost? What type of price are you willing to pay? And from Vancouver's side of things, is this beneficial to us to even go in this direction, explore this possibility? I think there might be additional options elsewhere. I could certainly see some teams, whether it's a Utah or Carolina or Chicago or whomever, Philadelphia's poked around in the past. If they go in those directions, I think there might be better overall deals elsewhere. But from a fit perspective, I think LA would definitely be up there. It's just I don't see what package would make sense or what type of return would make sense from Vancouver's side of things.
Reverse construction, how antsy is Carolina with Svechnikov on that file?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting look. Kotkaniemi has already been the guy that they've been trying to get rid of for a while.
Yeah.
I guess he plays center, but he also plays the wing. And it's term. Like, he was offered up for Deneau, and LA didn't want to take on the term because he's basically a 40-point player right now. And effectively a third-line center, maybe second-line winger. Svechnikov, I think that would be appealing for Vancouver, without question, for that caliber player to come back. Just on the big picture type of scenario. Whether that's the direction they want to go, I'm not sure, because especially now that you've embraced this rebuild, you're moving out one guy in his mid-20s for another guy in his mid-20s. I don't know if that's the direction that makes sense for what they're thinking. I think just on the overall scope, yeah, I think as centerpieces, there's an alignment here. That would make sense. But from now the team accepting the fact that they are going through this rebuild, which I don't know how authentic of a rebuild it will be. Suddenly it's 2 years, whatever. So maybe the hybrid thing still is in play. But I just don't know if they are going in that direction officially and committing to it. I don't know if that's the type of return that makes sense for this group. But Carolina's not afraid to take swings, and that wouldn't overall, like, it wouldn't surprise me. At the same time, whether it's LA or Utah or whomever, how much of a willingness does Vancouver have to move him, A, in conference, and B, in division? Like, that's the other element, that I think factors in for them. If this does happen at any point, now, off season, whatever, I think the overall preference, unless you're blown out of the water, is to move him east. And they got to figure that out, obviously.
I think, a lot of us here in Vancouver have had the blinders on because the Canucks have bottomed out, and there's just been trade talk around this team all season long. The longer they wait, though, and the closer they get to the deadline, there are going to be other teams that are shopping players as well. And I think that was one of the reasons people wanted the Canucks to get out in front of the curve here. So Another night goes by where the Rangers are down 6-0 at home. They're chanting "Fire Drury." You have to think something's going to give there. Columbus makes its play. If Rick Bowness can't breathe some life into the Blue Jackets, they've got some players that could be of interest. Where are the other hot spots? Where should people sort of be looking here as they gauge the playing field of potential traders around the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I'll start in New York. I'm glad you brought him up because I don't know what the hell that was last night. 8-4, and your post-game response is, yeah, okay, we played like crap in the first period, but the rest of the game was great. You still gave up 4 more goals in the next 2 periods. So
yeah, they won the third though, David. They won the third.
Charging hard.
Yes. Yeah. Good job, boys. There's more smoke surrounding the New York Rangers, and typically when you and Canucks know this, when you're in the crapper, everybody's going to start calling. There's a lot of smoke surrounding the Rangers and some of their guys. Latest I heard was Vinny Trocheck, a couple teams checking in on him. So I don't know how close any of that is, and he does have some no trade protection, but there is interest from a couple of teams in him, and I've got to imagine some of the other players on this club are starting to garner more interest as teams try to vulture in and pluck some guys away. So definitely looking at the Rangers. From a seller's perspective, look, St. Louis is still there. I brought up Thomas a little bit, in just as a case-by-case scenario example to bring up earlier. But the rest of this club, they're willing to listen on him. They're willing to listen on almost anybody. That includes Parayko. That includes Kyrou still. Some of their players on pending UFA deals like Joseph and Sundqvist are topics of discussion. And then, of course, Braden Shen and Justin Falk and Pia Suter. These are 3 guys on deals that have 1 more year left on each. Suter's been battling injury for a good portion of the season, and he's out right now. But all 3 of those guys have generated interest as well. So I'm definitely looking at St. Louis to see when the first shoe drops. They've only made they've made 2 trades this season, but they've been very minuscule. They're AHL type deals in the grand scheme. I'm waiting for them to make the big move from an NHL side of things. So that's a team that I'm looking at as well. But the Rangers, definitely a lot of smoke there. That's been building up. St. Louis trying to, and still being open for business, but trying to make, some moves. And Ottawa's another one. From the buyer side of things, there's some talk of D, but I still believe that this is a team that continues to explore trying to bring in a top 6 guy. And the Sens, great win last night. Maybe they build off that, but Steve Staios, not afraid to kick tires and try to make some noise. He's been trying for a good chunk of the season to bring in somebody that fits that top 6, likely on the wing, that could provide some additional supplement secondary scoring. So that's another club that I'm looking at right now.
Any idea why Staios would have gone through the effort of going to Montreal to watch the Canucks play the Habs when the Canucks were going to Ottawa the very next night?
And just to freak everyone out, to get the blood boiling for fans. That was a little peculiar to me. I mean, look, it's what, an hour and 15 away, quick drive, nothing crazy. So you want to keep tabs on some of the other clubs that are out there. I don't think anything is imminent on that front, but yeah, he's keeping tabs and he's doing his thing across the board.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know what his decision process is. I don't know what the mindset is, other than I found it personally amusing because you're playing the next night. So if you really want to stir stuff up, this is a great way to do it. I think he took a little bit of enjoyment in that, but at the same time, he's also doing business.
Last one from me. You've talked about the Canucks that have clear value. They're performing pretty well. Like Garland's had an okay season, but Brooks has been okay. Hronek and Paterson, good seasons. What about the struggling Canucks? Have you come across, and I can understand why they wouldn't be interested in Thatcher Demko because of his injuries, but Demko and Besser, the well-paid, underperforming guys, if there was an appetite for the Canucks to get out from underneath these contracts that are both brand new, do you think there's a possibility there, or are those two guys that are probably rooted here because of their lack of performance or availability this year?
I think Demko would be based on. Sorry, let me rephrase. I think if there's a Demko option, it's June around draft. Otherwise, forget about it. Brock's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
He's got his trade protection. He's happy with where he's at. And after all the BS that he had to deal with last season, I don't see a scenario where he's going to suddenly say, "Yeah, I'll help you guys out. I'll waive." I just don't see it.
Jeff, you good?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a team that guys in a 21 game drought right now. It's just like
nobody wants that
too.
Yeah.
That that's another factor. As part of it. And we know, like he goes through. I mean, this is a hell of a long stretch, but he goes through spurts. But I just think even if there is interest, I don't imagine he would entertain it right now.
David, pleasure as always. Enjoy Marner Fest, both legs of it, and may you survive it all there in the city that never sleeps. Thank you for this.
Dave.
We'll talk to you next week.
Yep. All right. Thanks, boys. See ya.
Sekeres and Price from the Pacific Toyota Studios, built by Arbor Lee, and coming to you, as always, from the Wall Center. If you got your tickets to the big game, you'll want to make it a full experience. Stay downtown right here at the Wall Center. You call 604-331-1000. You just ask for the Sekeres and Price rate. Some blackout dates may apply based on availability. Canada's Camp Poutine continues in California for the Canadian men's soccer team, but Canada announces another tune-up for the World Cup here, Jeff. This one in Edmonton. It won't be a nice Tekka because it'll be June 1st, although it is Alberta. You never know. It's against Uzbekistan, and you might scoff at that at first blush, but they're actually 50th in the world right now. And according to Jesse Marsh, they're kind of the Asian version of the Canadian team in that they've been climbing the world rankings rather meteorically as well. And he thinks they might play like Qatar, who are in Canada's group stylistically. So there's that logic too. That's also one of the World Cup sort of customs is you try to find teams that play like the guys that are in your group to sharpen the edge, right?
And that's June 1st. So
yes.
We're weeks out at that point.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You're really fine-tuning at that point. So that makes sense. And fans here, of course, the Alberta flights are not that difficult for fans here. It's a huge stadium, so you'll be able to get tickets, presumably.
Road trip.
The downside is it has to be a road trip if you want a tune-up game because the tune-ups are now in Montreal, Toronto, and Edmonton. We're getting robbed of tune-up games, Jeff. Now
we got to let our grass grow, Blake.
And by the way, they're bringing in grass for the Edmonton match as well. We have more real matches, so we shouldn't be jealous.
No, I don't think so.
Let them have the exhibitions.
Yeah,
it's kind. We can't hog it all. We do have the best stadium for that in that regard. So, June 1st, Uzbekistan and Canada. And while we ramp you up for the World Cup, same goes for the Olympics, which are now inside a month away. And Canada has stepped in it here, Jeff.
Uh-oh.
A global skeleton scandal.
No.
Again, you're saying? Yes, they've done it again. Stay with me on this story. Last week, they have an event in Lake Placid. They pull 4 sliders out. They pull the entire team out of the Lake Placid event. Now, what happens, this is the same in skiing and a lot of the other winter events. The strength of the field determines how many ranking points you get. If a lot of people are injured, nobody's making it to the trip, well, it's not a very competitive race, so you don't get as many points for winning that race or placing high. Canada, now I'm going to put words in their mouth because they denied this, of course. Presumably, Canada did the calculations and realized if none of our very capable sliders are taking part in this event, then racers X, Y, and Z will not be able to get the requisite amount of points to qualify for the Olympics.
Oh, so gaming the skeleton system.
There's a 41-year-old American legend that's making a comeback. She wanted to qualify.
Not on our watch.
She needed a big result in a competitive field. As it stands, Jeff, she won the race. It wasn't enough because it wasn't a strong enough field for her to win. There are no, unlike, the PGA Tour and stuff where you have to give ample notice and there's rules around pulling out of things. There are no such rules. You are allowed to pull out of a race for whatever reason, whenever you want. The skeleton governing bodies did say, can we just be a little bit nicer, though, in how we do this? Like, it was just so
It's
obvious.
not very Canadian, is it?
It's not very Canadian. It's really cutthroat. Now, there was also a selfish...
Is our reputation tarnished now on the
may be.
international scene?
It may be.
Oh, boy.
There's also a selfish angle to it, which even makes it less Canadian here, Jeff. Not only did they block, but it was self-preserving as well because there was a chance that's... And there's a few other countries that were sort of denied chances to qualify with better points as well. They might have stolen a spot for Canada. Canada is maxed out for the amount of racers you're allowed to bring to, but if the results went the wrong way, they could have lost one slider for the Olympics. So we maximized ours. We denied theirs, including a very accomplished American racer in this comeback attempt, sort of the Lindsey Vonn, if you will, of skeletons. So that's our launching off point here for the Olympics.
The black sheep of the skeleton set in Milano.
Seems just like yesterday we were walking through Whistler with jugs of beer and winning the day. Following up on my Bet365 bet from yesterday, Victoria Mboko did beat Madison Keys. So she's into the semis.
Fairly handily in the third set, too. Like, they split the first two, and then I think 6-2 in the third. And go Vicky.
The downside is you do get a little more tired for the Aussie Open if you go on a deeper run here. Those that have been eliminated already or are doing their rehab and rest, getting ready for the Aussie Open. And again, yay, boo here. She gets unseeded Kimberly Burrell now in the semis as well. So she turfs the second seed in Madison Keys, gets an unseeded player here. She could romp to the final here.
If I'm not mistaken, Burrell's an Aussie.
Yes.
And so this is becoming a huge story down there, and everybody's getting behind her. So where Vicky had the support of the home crowd at the Canadian Open last summer, it's kind of the tables have turned here. But good for her. And, I mean, at this stage, like, I hear you on the concerns of fatigue, but you get to a semi in any event, bring it home.
Matt was thinking that she might be the best set to be impactful. I agree, just from body type as well. Like she looks strong, she looks athletic, more so than Layla, and I think we've given up on BB probably, haven't we?
I think so.
Yeah. Finally, ending here for a reason. CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson spoke at the winter meetings. A lot of the rule changes that we talked about yesterday that were leaked, Farhan was reporting on, came true. More on that in a second. He gave a throwaway comment on expansion because they didn't really discuss expansion at the winter meetings, but he did say we aim to have 10 teams by 2030. I just filed that in. Yep, heard it before.
Right, totally. Where are we going? Halifax? Like, I mean, it's just it seems that's the answer, and yet it's 2026. Like, get on with it.
Now they are. We're talking to Vanny Sartini about his Halifax Wanderers. They are doing renos to the stadium there. Like it could expand to a CFL size. We'll see. Again, I'm not going to drill down too hard on that because I heard it before. But he also mentioned CFL players are going to be allowed to play in the Summer Olympics of 2028 in flag football. But they aren't going to shut down the league.
How's that going to work?
I mean, if we're talking about, practice roster players, depth players, okay. But, I mean, I think some Canadian fans were dreaming of Nathan Rourke slinging a pigskin there.
Yeah, that's a little different if your star quarterback has a side hustle in the middle of the season.
And presumably that probably negate 2 games, I would guess. Unless, I mean, they can't do one bye week, Jeff. Like one bye week would pretty much put you, like you do bye weeks anyway. Now I realize
take a page from soccer and do like an international
a
transfer.
window. Yeah. I mean, you could do that.
This is a chance for these guys to be Olympians.
Well, in terms of a give to the players for that reason, absolutely. But also, Jeff, like presumably we're going to be okay at this sport. Like we've already done well with Michael O'Connor, the former UBC, and he was a BC line backup for a second, I think, too. They've done very well already in qualifying. But if they can bolster with CFL players, they also get to be on NBC Sports being talked about as this guy plays for the CFL's blah, blah, blah.
Yep. No, I mean, it cuts both ways. There'd be exposure for the Canadian Football League. But I just think, like, again, guys that play in the CFL are doing all they can to win championships and stuff. But being an Olympian, like, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. I ended here rather than at the top of the segment because we dovetail into errors and omissions. We'll do it out of order here. We'll get to the poll question from yesterday in a second. Errors and omissions. We wondered with this tie-breaking scenario yesterday, you go to the 3-yard line. In the event that nobody wins in overtime, you go to the tiebreaker, the shootout, if you will, CFL style, where you alternate possessions downs from the 3-yard line. And we thought, okay, but statistically speaking, overtime touchdowns go into the books as touchdowns, 7 points on the board. You know, the receiver gets quality credit for the. Are we going to do that for when you just place the ball at the 3 every? Like, what if you go back and forth 4 times? That like the same guy could have.
I hadn't thought about
just
that.
Racking up touchdowns. So I said
an 11 touchdown game.
So I appealed. Can we make it a 2-point convert? It turns out it is.
Okay.
They're just 2-point converts, so it will reflect on the scoreboard, but it's going to go up rather incrementally 2-by-2 at that point, which is great because I've envisioned a 110-103 final in a really close game.
Is eliminating a tie really necessary? Like, what do we get? A tie every 3 years in the CFL?
Yes. It kept somebody up late at night. So we have a solution to a problem that did not exist. Results from yesterday's poll question. What does Elias Pettersson's hot streak make you want to do? Didn't get the chance to ask you yesterday. So first of all, your thoughts on that. What is it? Trade him? Keep him? What is this small resurgence? Again, he's not red hot, but he's hot.
It's all relative.
Yes.
I'm going to say on the poll to this fan base, it's still all about trading him.
It is.
Yeah.
What do you think the number was?
62%?
69.5%. Yeah, almost 70. What does it make Jeff Paterson want to do?
I think once you move Quinn Hughes, that all bets are off, and there's not an untouchable on a 32nd place team in the National Hockey League. And if you could find a suitor that was willing to take the bulk of that contract or all of that contract, I'm not even worried so much about the return. But the fact that he is showing some signs here, I think, makes him a tradable asset where, this time last year, I don't know that there would have been a single taker, even if you just put him out by the curb and put free on him. I mean, like if they're tearing it down and starting over, I think there's probably too much baggage there to try to build it back up around Elias Pettersson. And so, if they can find a trading partner here in the offseason, because I don't think it's happening before the playoffs. Like, there's not a team out there that thinks that's the piece we need for the playoffs, where the guy had 1 goal in the 2 rounds that the Canucks played in the playoffs 2 years ago. I think this is more of an off-season kind of deal.
Yeah, I don't know that Canucks fans are going to be too wowed by the return for an Elias Pettersson trade. That's the problem. And I brought this up as a devil's advocate too, Jeff. He is 27 for the entirety of this season. Like, he is young enough that if the plan is correct, the timeline is correct, he will be 29, maybe 30 when the Canucks have turned the corner here. That is young enough. As some of the people have fed back here, Pucker Glenn would be ashamed to draft Stenberg or McKenna and watch them wonder who their center is. Shiv, the same thing. Why would you trade him when you get Stenberg or McKenna on his wing next year? But others, Rob the siding guy, if he has any value, you trade him immediately. Ron, hot streak, should be scoring more than this at that price, and that's fair. But if he's performing at an $8 million player clip and he's making 11.5, I mean, it's inexact. You don't always get the full value for the player. You have to they have leverage at the time that you sign the player. So I think that is what it is. Thank you for your votes. Over 2,200 votes. You guys have been in a voting mood here lately with the Canucks.
Hammering the vote button.
Yes. You can't vote more than once, so that's the beauty. It's tighter than federal elections. Jeff, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Rink wide later today versus Columbus Blue Jackets. Looking forward to that. Let's hope there's just a note. I don't think Tank Commanders can get upset about one win on the road trip. If they go 1-5, can the drafters really be that upset?
They're not going to lose every game the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah. Like there
will be some wins. I don't know when or where or what they'll look like, but there will be some wins somehow, some way. And so if they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets, they come on home and they run straight into Connor McDavid and the Oilers on Saturday. I don't think this is going to be the start of any kind of streak here.
No. Okay. We'll keep our eyes on that. Don't forget Rink Wide right at the end of the game. Thank you for listening / watching this one. Matt is back in the saddle tomorrow. And, of course, make sure you do pay attention to all those fabulous local sponsors that we've got supporting this program. Thank you for supporting. Hit the subscribe button as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow.